Julie McGourty. I'm a cloud solutions architect focused on cybersecurity in the Microsoft UK team. So thank you to Jonathan and Bjorn for the invite just to open the session. So if we just go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so really I just wanted to highlight what Microsoft are seeing out there in the cybersecurity landscape at the moment. And this particular kind of high level categorization and summary of what we see as the latest threats is from the Microsoft Digital Defence Report, and that's something that we publish on an annual basis, and sometimes we do an interim one sort of mid-year as well, depending on what's going on in the landscape. So I would encourage anyone, if you're interested in this, that report can be found online on the Microsoft site. If you just search for Digital Defence Report. But these are really what we've seen as being the key threats in 2022 that we also expect to continue throughout to the end of the year. So, you know, no surprise, cybercrime has increased significantly. That's something that we particularly saw increase on the back of the COVID-19 pandemic. So even as we went through the start of the year, when there was still a lot of issues going on and, you know, people getting invites to go for vaccinations, etc., a lot of, you know, phishing, etc., increased on the back of that. Nation state threats has probably become even more prominent in the last few months with the Russia and Ukraine situation. That's something that Microsoft have been involved in quite heavily with the Ukraine Cyber Defence Group, and you know, we're quite proud to have collaborated with them, and actually we're the first security vendor to spot some of the nation state attacks that were coming out of Russia and into the various elements of the Ukraine infrastructure. So as you can imagine, that continues to escalate and is something that, you know, we see as a very, very big risk for the rest of this year, both in that part of the world, but also more broadly as well, because certainly the attacks and the methods of attack are only getting more sophisticated. But supply chain and IoT and OT security, that's also become quite a paramount concern with a lot of our customers, particularly the supply chain side, because again, we've had quite a few high-profile supply chain attacks in the last few years, like the Nobelium one, which was with SolarWinds. And you know, clearly, if there's an issue in the supply chain, and then that's able to infiltrate a lot of organisations, where the attack can then just permeate throughout the organisation. So supply chain has been a big focus, and we are seeing quite a lot of focus in IoT and OT, particularly on the sort of infrastructure side. So quite a lot on, for example, transportation when it comes to OT security. You know, things like energy networks, what can we do to really increase the cyber security there? Because, you know, clearly as more and more of these are actually connected online, that is a very easy way for attackers to cause, you know, mass chaos within a country or within a select environment. So that's something that we've seen increase significantly and expect to do so. Again, the hybrid workforce one, that was definitely one, as you can imagine, came out of the pandemic, when, you know, certain groups of users who had probably never worked before and not been allowed to work remotely before had to. So we've seen, you know, a big increase in attacks that are targeting specifically some of the financial services industry who were forced to work remotely for the first time, and some of the public sector workforce as well. And even as we come out of the pandemic, the working patterns clearly have changed from what they were 2.5 years ago. So that hybrid piece continues to be a big area where companies and our customers of ours are looking to invest and looking to Microsoft to give some guidance. So those are kind of the top 4 areas, if you like. I think number 2 is probably the one that's kind of flashing red at the moment, if you like, and one where we're working quite closely with, you know, various government bodies across the world. But this sort of shape in the middle here with some of the numbers on it, I just wanted to highlight that as well, because that gives you an idea of the amount of security data that Microsoft as a global organisation are able to see on a daily basis. So from the just sheer extent of our numbers of customers who choose to, you know, share their security signals, essentially the alerts and things that they're seeing in their environment using the Microsoft products, they choose to share that with us. We then have a massive team of security cyber threat researchers who are looking at that data, looking for patterns in that data to see what the potential next big threat might be, where the cyber actors are, what the potential, you know, next really high profile attack could be, as well as some of the more low level, less intrusive stuff. But the more we can see, then our researchers can see patterns, they can take action, and most importantly, our product engineering teams can then push out updates to our Microsoft products all our customers globally and then protect people before anything becomes an issue. And we're able to do that through things like, as it says there, AI powering the predictions, because we do see patterns from previous attacks. That certainly helps us, but just having that, you know, significant human analyst expertise within Microsoft from a cyber point of view as well. And those numbers there, I think, kind of speak for themselves. We have 8,500 people working in security across Microsoft, so it's a big proportion of our workforce. And, you know, there's the size of the investment that's coming over the next 5 years, so it's only getting bigger within Microsoft. So yeah, if we just go to the next slide, please, Jonathan. So I thought this one was quite a good opener for the remainder of the webinar. So really, you know, why should we care about zero trust? And I think, you know, zero trust is one of these terms that's been around for the last few years as a bit of a buzz term, but really when you strip it back, a lot of the stuff that's underneath that umbrella term really does pay dividends. And it's quite amazing when we work with some customers and you realise just how much of this is getting missed, you know, for whatever reason, just not enough staff, not enough resources, but that's where the tooling from Microsoft can help. So just wanted to kind of call out a couple of these. I mean, clearly, you know, as it says here, just doing the basics can get you up to 98% protection, and the basics are kind of listed out there across the bottom. In the context of zero trust in particular, obviously things like multi-factor authentication are absolutely critical, you know, and I've seen some data recently just on quite high percentages of users and organizations that just still aren't using multi-factor authentication, you know, and clearly, you know, within our product suite as well, there's lots of options to make that as easy as possible, even for users like, you know, frontline workers, etc., that might not just be desk-based, they might be out working on mobile devices. Things like, you know, passwordless biometric authentication can really help with that. So sometimes it can be seen as a little bit of a hindrance maybe to workers who are not, you know, particularly desk-based or used to it, but there's a lot there that you can turn on and get that very sort of basic application of some of the quick wins in zero trust. And then the least privileged access is clearly at the heart of zero trust. So there's again a lot there within the Microsoft suite that we can help with, you know, whether it's least privileged access, you know, into Azure and the various degrees of control that you can apply across the cloud environments, to a lot more of the on-prem tools as well. And, you know, I just wanted to call out from our side, we have a newly released product in Europe. It was previously known as CloudKnox as an acquisition. It's now been rebranded under our Entra umbrella of cloud permissions management. That is something, using tools like that to do a bit of an audit and a baseline of what privileges you've got turned on across cloud environments, and then being able to see that and then adjust it back to least privileged access, because as we all know, people often kind of gain privileges as they change jobs within an organisation, and usually the sort of privileges that they had previously are never revoked. So being able to do that audit of what people have access to and scale it back to a true least privilege model can be done in modular blocks across the environment, but can bring very, very quick wins as well. And just before we move on, I just wanted to sort of make everyone aware, in Zero Trust Microsoft, we've just started our new financial year on the 1st of July, and that usually has a bit of a reset with strategy across the different solution areas. So for us, Zero Trust previous to the 1st of July was one pillar of security, and this year it's actually across all of our different pillars. So we have 4 or 5 security pillars where we group our solutions into, but Zero Trust is actually a common thread across them all. So I think that's really good to see from a messaging point of view. If you go on the Microsoft website and look at any security solutions, Zero Trust is across every pillar with, you know, various recommendations on how you can use our compliance tools to check your current posture and then be able to start on that zero trust journey from, you know, a pretty good visibility point of view as well. So if you just move to the next slide, please. And yeah, these are just, you know, the highlights really. If we want to, you know, look at kind of 3 key areas that are summaries, I think the multi-cloud environment in particular has become, you know, quite a big issue for a lot of organizations. And as I said, I kind of touched on the CloudKnox acquisition. You know, even within Azure, we have a lot of tools that you could use to implement and help you with zero trust across other public clouds as well. So from Azure, you can use some of the components and solutions available in there to secure AWS and Google as well. That's something that I think a lot of people don't realise. So for those out there with multi-cloud, I'd encourage you to take a look at that, because there's probably things there that you've already got that you could be making use of across the wider cloud to implement that zero trust across public cloud environments as well. And then the complex sort of landscape of regulations out there, you know, zero trust is being built into more and more of them as a key principle to adhere to regulations for specific industries. So, you know, very relevant to what we're talking about. And yeah, if we just move to the next slide, please. I just wanted to sort of round off my bit from the Microsoft point of view. It's really just, again, a bit of a sort of elaboration on what I talked about on the previous slide, just the size and scale of the Microsoft security product deployment globally across all of our customers who are choosing to share, you know, their anonymized threat information with us. That gives you an idea of, you know, that 585k organizations are using our products across 120 countries. That's enabling us to get that data back from their cybersecurity environments, and for those analysts and cyber researchers, we've got to take that and be able to get very quick visibility of what the latest threat actors are doing and turn that into updates for our products that all customers can benefit from. And that's just the other figures, clearly just an illustration of that size and scale with some other metrics there. So hopefully all of this provides, I guess, a bit of food for thought on where zero trust can really help you to mitigate some of the issues. So thank you, Jonathan. I'll hand back to you.